This is part two of the stereo guitar cabinet simulator, where I'm going to walk through some examples between modeling with the VST cabinet modeling with the VST Amp Rack and cabinet modeling with the stereo guitar cabinet. So the emulations in the Kronos are more varied. There's more models. There's less models in the VST Amp Rack, but it's more detailed. So the first one to show off would be this plexi, which is supposed to mimic a Marshall stack. I'm not sure if it's the A or B, or if it's like a newer like AC412, but yeah. But listening to the listening and observing the spectral response, we do see some pretty big differences between the VST Amp Rack and the Korg equivalent. So let's listen to the VST Amp Rack first. So right now, that's just plain noise. Here's the VST Amp Rack in Cubase. So you can see kind of a boost around 100, bit of a notch around 800, and then it boosts again and then tapers off. Now checking the same thing with the cabinet simulator. This is the UKH30, called UK because Marshall is a British company, or British or English or somewhere around there. So we do see that similar notch between 500 and 1K. And then it boosts up again and then tapers off. So similar curve, spectral curve, but it sounds pretty different. I noticed that the Korg emulations are more smooth. If you look at that, if you look at the line, whereas the Steinberg emulations are a bit more jagged and bumpy. But I can mimic that slightly with the Korg if I increase the air parameter, because the more air, the more the spectrum kind of breaks up. So notice that the line will become more jagged as the air parameter increases. So that kind of makes it at least breaking up similarly, but I still do find the sounds to be pretty different between the two. So again, here's Korg, and then here's Steinberg. Kind of similar. I can kind of hear some similarities, but pretty different overall. The Diamond in the VST Amp Rack is a Mesa Boogie, and that's not modeled in the Kronos. The next one is a Fender Blackface, and that is modeled in the Kronos with the what is it, the black 2x12 model. So here's it in the VST Amp Rack. Moderately flat, bit of a boost. Now let's bypass it. Playing the Korg one. Kind of similar. Let me take down the air parameter. So yeah, again, moderately flat, a little bit of a boost, and then it tapers off. Switching again. And switching again. Seems like there's more high end on the Steinberg one. We might be able to get kind of a similar response if we mess with the microphones. See, that takes away some of the high end. So again, they do sound similar. Next up, we have the Fender Tweed. And I like the graphics for this one on Steinberg's, but let's listen to this. See, like, kind of a big bump down here at the bottom, but otherwise kind of a similar response. We get to have a bit of a notch here at around 1K. Let's hear it. And let me switch to, that's the Tweed 4x10. Yep. So I'm not seeing that bump, and I'm not seeing too much of a notch. Let me try turning up the air parameter. I do actually end up seeing a bit more of a notch here. Let's listen to it again on Cubase. Yep, similar but different. I think overall I do like the way that the VST Amp Rack sounds. I'm not a guitarist, so, and I'm definitely not an expert in guitar cabinets. So, you know, you might enjoy the Korg sound more, but to me, this just sounds more detailed. One thing that Korg does have going for them, though, is that there are so many more cabinet types, even if they're not modeled quite as accurately as they are in Steinberg's VST Amp Rack. Something that I wasn't sure how to check for in either, from either manufacturer, was the transient response of the cabinets. I'm not sure if that modeling is going on in Steinberg's VST Amp Rack. I doubt it's going on in the stereo guitar cabinet by Korg, but yeah. Moving on, we have the Fender Deluxe. This is the 59 Deluxe, I believe. And let's listen to that. Kind of a big bump here at 2K. From 2K to 2 to 5. 2 to, yeah, about 2 to 5. Otherwise, a moderately flat response. Let's see if we see that 2 to 5. That would be the Tweed 1x12. And right now I have the air parameter all the way up. I'm just going to leave it. Yeah, kind of that 2 to 5K range. Kind of a moderately straight response there. Let's take down the air parameter, which is smoothed it out. I do like that the curve is more smooth, that the spectral response is more smooth. It just kind of, like, even if the detail isn't necessarily there, I just like that the digital clarity or the digital response that you get from the Kronos. Last up is the British Custom, which is actually mimicking a Vox, which is a company that was bought by Korg, and Korg is the parent company of Vox nowadays. Let's listen to the Vox. This is the AC30 by Steinberg. Bit of a notch right here. That's about 700. And then another pretty big notch here at 7K. 7.5K. Switching over to the AC30, which Korg is allowed to just call by name. This was a combo amp. So you can't, I don't know if you can actually listen to the AC30 cabinet by itself in real life. I don't think you can, but again, I'm not an expert in this, so. But let's listen to this and see if we see that that notch at around 7.5. And yep, it's pretty hefty on Korg's end. Let's turn up the air parameter. Get that breakup. And again, I'm going to switch back to Steinberg's Vox emulation. And back to Korg's. Pretty similar, actually, for that one. I do think it is kind of funny that however they modeled the cabinets with Steinberg, I do still find more detail in these. And that includes the Vox. You'd almost hope that since Vox is a Korg company that the emulation would be better, but it really just comes down to the modeling technique. Yeah, so that's all of these examples, but I also want to show you this diagram where I just took photos of each model that we just went through. So you can really see the similarities. each one of the Steinberg ones were snapshots of the close dynamic mic, whereas the Korg ones, you can't choose the microphone, but I had this I had the air parameter at 0, which gave a very smooth curve instead of more jagged like the Steinberg ones. It's almost like the Steinberg ones are at full air, and you can even hear kind of like the phasing in the Steinberg, every single Steinberg one, but that to me gives it like that kind of extra detail. Whereas again, all of the Kronos ones are much more smooth and perhaps more digital sounding. And yeah, I'll probably try to post this graphic somewhere so you can study it at your leisure. But thank you for watching this video. And tomorrow I'm going to work on some Chroma stuff because I haven't done that in a bit. All right, bye-bye.